Throughout Marvel's history, they've had quite a few comics exclusive to certain companies or businesses. Pizza Hut, the NFL, Mego Corporation, Kiss, M&M's, the Vatican, Northrop Grumman. But in the early 80s, Marvel teamed up with, read as was paid, by the Dallas Times-Herald to create at least 6 comics. These consisted of this X-Men one and 5 Spider-Man issues. These were all self-contained stories that I guess came with like issues of the Dallas Times-Herald. I think they were like exclusive comics for readers of the Herald who had it, you know, delivered each week. But before I get into this comic, make sure you like and subscribe. I have a 40-page comic anthology made up of 3 short stories that is out now. It's called DESTRUCTO Boy and Other Exciting Tales. Here's a little look-see. It's part of a limited print run, so make sure you get your copy while it's hot. It is $19.99, and unfortunately it only ships to the 48 continental United States, so if you're from Alaska or Hawaii, or you're an international viewer, please feel free to email me at wildtblake, and we can work out shipping for you. Released in 1983, written by Jim Salicrup and David Kraft, with art by Kerry Gamble and Alan Kupperberg, this is The Uncanny X-Men at the State Fair of Texas. The book begins at the peaceful school for the gifted children in upstate New York. Inside the Danger Room, Cyclops, Wolverine, Colossus, Storm, and Nightcrawler engage with the Danger. As Professor X and Kitty Pryde, Ariel, watch on. Like every X-Men comic, we get to see the characters explain how their powers work and what they are used for. Then Nightcrawler teleports into the control room and Professor X is like, "You blue son of a bitch! Normally I'd call you a cheater, but I was actually going to call you all in here anyway." The X-Men all make their way up to the control room as Ariel... I hate that. As Kitty wonders if she'll ever be strong enough to be an X-Man. Professor X explains how Cerebro works and says it has found another mutant in Dallas, Texas. And they need to get there before Magneto and his band of evil mutants does. Cut to Dallas, yeehaw! At the state fair, specifically the horse barn, this comic really makes sure that you know that this barn right here is specifically used for horses. A man in an overcoat walks inside to find this Twinkie cream blonde named Daniel Wiley. The mysterious coded figure, it's Magneto, I don't know why I'd bother burying the lead on this. He's like, "Hey, what's up? You wanna go get some food and a soda pop?" And so they do. And Danny's like, "Finally, there's someone who understands me and likes horses too." Magneto's like, "Yes, I know what it's like to be misunderstood, and a mutant." And then he asks about Danny's father, who was a scientist who retired after like some accident and started a horse ranch. I don't know what this plot element is because it never comes up again, but I don't know if it's supposed to be implying that Magneto's trying to get to whatever research or something that his father did and he's using Danny to do it. Also, that's a really good horse. As someone who has been having to draw horses for the past year for my Western comic, let me tell you that it is a huge pain in the ass. Then Danny tells Magneto about his backstory. He grew up on a ranch, and one night when he was a teenager, he went out to look at the horses, then he started to feel sick, and he fell to the ground and turned into a centaur. That's right, his mutant power is to turn into a centaur. But all this guy got was the ability to blow himself up. Once. And this guy can just turn himself blue. Are we sure that being a mutant isn't just some weird magical curse? And Danny tells Magneto that he's too scared to be what he really is. And Magneto is like, yes, I understand you, Daniel. Yes. Back at his ship, Magneto's like, "Yeah, I scored another mutant for my Brotherhood." And then he goes on about how he'll win Danny's trust and get him to join his Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and rule the world. Why go for the centaur guy? You couldn't have found anyone, I don't know, better? I mean, I get why you want more people on your side. That's not the issue here. I understand that. But, isn't there anyone else you could have gotten sooner to help you on your cause of defeating humanity that's better than a centaur? Meanwhile, the X-Jet arrives in Dallas. The X-Men make their way through the music hall of the state fair, and then Professor X tells them to split up because of how giant this amazing fair is. Cyclops goes with Storm to the Age of Steam exhibit, Wolverine and Nightcrawler go to a building, and then they go to the giant statue of Big Tex. Colossus, Kitty, and Professor X leave the state fair? They're clearly not inside anymore. They're walking on a busy street in a city. Where are they going? Colossus, he's like checking out cars. He's like, oh, I love these Amerikansky automobiles. But Professor X tells him to pay attention and look for the mutant who's at this fair that they're not at. He's looking at his map of the state fair that he got at the entrance, and he's like, there's so much to see here and do. We'll just have to come back tomorrow during the Cotton Bowl. Is Professor X using this as a vacation? Your archenemy Magneto, or some of his acolytes, are probably here as you speak and look over this map and try and find the cinnamon roll stand. The next day, Danny and his new sugar daddy go to the Cotton Bowl and sit behind the X-Men, conveniently enough. Well, Colossus Kitty, who's still wearing her mask, and Professor X at least. Then Professor X reads Magneto's mind, and Magneto realizes that Charles is reading his mind. So he and Danny run away. Why don't you freeze him or something, Chuck? Like, you're letting him get away. You have mental powers. Use them. Stop looking at your map. You already have your cinnamon roll. Kitty gives chase as Professor X calls to the X-Men, and Magneto tells Danny that the X-Men are coming to kidnap him and enslave him. Then Kitty phases through a wall, so Magneto throws a motorbike at her. Oh, what the fuck is this? Why is his head so big? Oh, it's a Professor X crossword puzzle. Play this game at home, kids. Anyway, Magneto runs away, thinking that he can't have a confrontation with the X-Men until Daniel is all his. Is Professor X just not reading his mind? He's literally just sitting there watching football, isn't he? Anyway, Kitty phases out of the ground, which is pretty cool, and runs after Danny, who runs into the horse barn. Don't forget, it's a horse barn, everybody. Inside, Danny finds Magneto, who has just literally finished changing into his costume when the X-Men show up. Magneto pushes Danny out of the way and says that they're attacking them. Then he uses his power to pull all the metal in the barn at he and Danny, but he protects his young ward. Then Danny transforms into his true form. Equus. Professor X tells his band not to hurt Danny, as Danny prepares to crush him with his giant horse hooves. Nightcrawler then jumps on top of him, but doesn't bother teleporting away. Then Wolverine and Colossus, the two guys made of metal, attack Magneto. He sends Wolverine into the ceiling, and Colossus through it. Which, yeah, answers my question I've always really had on whether or not he could do that, since, I don't know, isn't Colossus like organic metal? Cyclops then tells us how Magneto is flying away. It's his magnetic powers. And Equus follows him into the sky as Magneto drops Colossus back down onto the building. Okay, what is this? No, not that. That's an advertisement for the Dallas Times-Herald. I mean this. Professor X wants you to name the animals? What? What even is this? What? These aren't even like, I don't know. Some of these aren't even animals you would see at a fair, or Texas even. What does this have to do with anything? What is this? There's a gorilla here. Did the Dallas Times-Herald just not want to pay for a full-page ad, so they had to put something in here? Oh look, Spider-Man is selling me a spa on the next page. Storm chases after them as Danny chastises Magneto for dropping Colossus from so high in the air. Not because it would have killed him, but because it could have killed the horses in the horse barn. Magneto's like, who cares about the horses, Daniel? I mean Equus? We are mutants. We shall rule this... Danny just starts choking him out and like throws him to the ground, where Magneto lands in front of Big Tex, who kicks him unconscious, I guess, right as Storm shoots lightning in the ground. I guess the lightning went into the metal and made him kick. Professor X then asks Equus if he will join them. But Danny says, while it would be an honor to join the X-Men, he'd rather have a nice, peaceful life here in Texas. Banging horses. Professor X tells him that he understands completely, and then thanks him for inviting them to partake in one more evening at the wonderful State Fair of Texas. Then Danny says how cool it was that Storm made the Big Tex statue kick Magneto in the keister. And Storm's like, that wasn't me. I thought Cyclops did that. How? I don't know. Then they all look up at the statue, but then they turn away and walk back and go enjoy themselves at the fair. And then the Big Tex statue winks. What? What does that mean? Is that a thing it does? Is it alive? Is Big Tex a mutant? What if he was like, was he at one point a real cowboy who has a mutant power to turn into a giant 60-foot tall tin statue? What if he's like a camouflage sentinel? What does this mean? It's never answered or explained. We never see any of this again. No one ever talks about it. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode of What Is, and let me know what you thought of the story in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I guess do the little bell thing to be notified of when I release new videos. Again, my 40-page comic, Destructo Boy and Other Exciting Tales, is on sale for $19.99. Check out the link in the description. Let me know if you have any suggestions for comics I should read or feature on here in the comments as well. Follow me on Instagram at NotBlakeWild and at smokey'svideos for updates on my 166-page graphic novel set in the Old West. I'll see you next time, partner. Bye.